The winter of the year 455 of the First Age was a season of unparalleled harshness. Heavy snow covered every inch of Beleriand, and a piercing cold wind howled from the north, as if the air itself were frozen. In the ease of the long peace, the guards of elves and men huddled in their fortresses and camps around the hearth fire, telling ancient tales, almost forgetting the existence of the evil fortress in the north. On such a silent winter night, when the stars were dim, doom fell without warning. The iron gates of Angband were flung open, but it was not an army of orcs that poured forth, but a deluge of liquid fire like rivers bursting their banks. The fire, carrying the stench of brimstone and a will of destruction, swept irresistibly across the great plain of Ardgalen. The plain, once green and blossoming, was scorched in an instant into a blackened wasteland, forever after known as the Anfoglith, the gasping dust. Countless elven sentinels, unable to flee, were turned to ash along with their horses and tents in a single moment. The siege of Angband, the barrier of peace that had held for nearly 400 years, was utterly destroyed by this sudden flame. Immediately following, under the cover of fire and smoke, Morgoth's amassed army of terror swarmed forth like a plague of locusts from hell. At the forefront was Glorung, father of dragons, his golden body shimmering in the firelight, breathing flames hot enough to melt steel. Behind him were Balrogs wielding whips of fire, tens of thousands of taller and stronger orcs, and countless hideous werewolves and other evil creatures. This disaster, known to later ages as the Daedra Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame, struck the defenses of the Noldor with the force of a thunderbolt. The March of Maedhros in the east bore the brunt of the attack. The pass of Aglon fell to Glorung's fire, and Celegorm and Curufin were forced to retreat westward. Though the sons of Fëanor fought valiantly, they were driven back step by step before that overwhelming assault. Caranthar's fortress on Mount Rerir was taken, his picturesque Lake Helivorn defiled by orc bodies and foul blood, and Thargelion, the rich land where he had traded with dwarves, was ravaged. Celegorm, Curufin, and the young smith Celebrimbor fled south to Nargothrond for refuge after paying a heavy price. In the north, the battle was equally fierce. The highlands of Dorthonion, the beautiful pine forests guarded by the sons of Finarfin, became the main target of the orc army. Angrod and Aegnor, the two princes known for their valor and friendship with men, built a wall of flesh and blood on the border with their elven and human allies. Yet the enemy's numbers were endless. In a desperate and bloody battle, Angrod and Aegnor both fell, their golden hair stained red with blood, dying on the land they had sworn to protect. Their ally, Bregolas, Lord of Lodros and leader of the House of Beer, also fell in this battle. His son, Beregund, Burin's uncle, and 12 of his most loyal warriors fought to the last around his body and were all slain. Another warrior of the House of Beer, Galder, different from Galder of the House of Hader, was captured and brutally murdered after enduring unimaginable torture. In Hithlum to the west, the situation was equally critical. Hader, the golden-haired lord of the House of Hader, and his youngest son Gundr, died defending the rear of High King Fingolfin before the fortress of Idelsern, pierced by orc arrows like hedgehogs. Galder, Hader's eldest son, took up his father's banner and the lordship of Dorlomin in grief. In Dorthonion, the surviving members of the House of Beer continued a desperate resistance under the leadership of Barahir, Bregolas's brother. Just as Dorthonion was on the verge of total collapse, Finrod Felagund, king of Nargothrond, heard the news of his two brothers' deaths, and his heart was pierced with grief. He immediately led an elite force north from the south to aid them. However, in the fens of Cern he was ambushed by orcs, surrounded and trapped. Just as Finrod was about to fall, exhausted, Barahir led the last of his human warriors like a sharp arrow, charging heedlessly into the orc encirclement. With their own flesh and blood, they cut a bloody path for Finrod. After successfully breaking out, Finrod looked at the blood-stained, resolute human leader before him, his heart filled with endless gratitude and admiration. To repay him for saving his life and to commemorate their eternal friendship, Finrod took the ring from his own hand and solemnly gave it to Barahir. The ring bore the emblem of the House of Finarfin, two serpents with eyes of emerald, one devouring and the other supporting a crown of golden flowers. Finrod swore an oath that if Barahir or any of his descendants should present this ring in time of need, he or his kin would aid them with all their power, even unto death. This ring, later known as the Ring of Barahir, would become the key token of a legendary romance and a desperate quest, its destiny far exceeding the imagination of anyone present. The smoke of the Daedra Bragollach still hung over Beleriand in the year 456 of the First Age. Dorthonion finally fell, and its beautiful pine forests were thereafter shrouded in Morgoth's dark sorcery, becoming a place of terror and phantoms known as Tornu Fuin, the Forest Under Night. In the hidden city of Gondolin, King Turgon heard of the disaster in the north. He knew that while his city was safe, isolation also meant being cut off from help. He sent wave after wave of his bravest messengers to the mouths of Cerne, attempting to build ships and sail to Valinor to beg the Vala for aid. But the great sea, Balageir, was shrouded in magic and storms. All the ships sank on the way and not one messenger reached the blessed realm. When the terrible news of the total collapse of the northern defenses reached High King Fingolfin in Hithlum, he was consumed by an uncontrollable rage and despair. Seeing the blood of his people staining the white snow and the peace and glory of 400 years turning to ash in a single night, he believed the doom of the Noldor had come. Driven by a heroic madness, he donned his gleaming silver armor, put on his helm adorned with a plume, took up his sword Ringil and alone, like a wrathful star, rode his great white horse Rochelair out of Hithlum, galloping madly towards Angband. He cut a path through all who stood in his way. The orcs fled in terror at the sight of him, thinking a Vala had descended in person. He rode alone to the great gates of Angband and sounded his horn. The sound was like the cracking of mountains, echoing in the depths of the evil fortress. He roared a challenge to Morgoth himself, calling him a coward and lord of slaves. Morgoth, the dark enemy, though filled with fear in his heart, could not refuse the challenge under the gaze of his captains. Clad in black iron armor, wearing the iron crown set with the 3 Silmarils and wielding Grond, the hammer of the underworld, he walked slowly out of the gates of Angband like a towering shadow rising from the earth. Before the gates of Angband, the High King of the Noldor and the Dark Enemy fought a duel that shook the earth. Fingolfin's figure under Morgoth's immense shadow was like a spark in the wind, but he was swift as the wind, and his sword Ringil, like a blue flash of lightning, left 7 deep wounds on Morgoth. Morgoth howled in pain. Every swing of his heavy hammer smashed a great pit in the earth, but Fingolfin always deftly avoided it. However, the battle was ultimately a contest between a mortal and a god, a disparity of power too great to overcome. Fingolfin grew weary, while Morgoth seemed to possess endless strength. Finally, Morgoth bore Fingolfin down with his great shield. Though Fingolfin was beaten to his knees 3 times he rose again. But the last time he stumbled into a pit made by Grond, and Morgoth set his left foot upon Fingolfin's neck. The weight was like a falling mountain. In the final moment of his life, Fingolfin summoned his last strength and drove his sword Ringil deep into Morgoth's foot. Morgoth let out a scream that pierced the sky, and black blood gushed from the wound. He walked with a limp ever after, and the pain of that wound could never be healed. But in the end he killed Fingolfin, the most valiant High King of the Noldor. He intended to drag Fingolfin's body back to feed to his wolves, but at that moment Thorondor, King of Eagles, swooped down from the heights, marred Morgoth's face with his sharp talons, and then snatched up Fingolfin's body, flying south. Fingolfin's son, Fingon, became the new High King of the Noldor in sorrow. In fallen Dorthonion, most of the surviving members of the House of Beer, led by Imelda, wife of Barahir, gathered their families and began a tragic journey of escape to the south. But Barahir, along with his son Burin and 12 most loyal companions, refused to leave. They remained in that cursed land, forming a band of outlaws, continuing a hopeless guerrilla war. Like ghosts in the wilderness, they constantly harassed Morgoth's forces, and their names became the last stubborn light in the darkness. The Daedra Bragollach ended in the disastrous defeat of the alliance of Noldor elves and men, and the fate of Beleriand fell into a long and desperate darkness.